Close your eyes now, sweet friend. Just let your head sink a little deeper into the pillow. Feel the soft weight of the blanket hugging your shoulders like an old friend who never judges. Outside, the rain is falling so gently against the window. Tiny silver taps that say shh, shh. Everything is safe. Everything is quiet. I'm right here beside you. My voice barely more than a breath, warm and low, brushing the shell of your ear like the faintest touch of fingertips. Tonight we're going to walk together down a long, quiet hallway painted the color of faded limes, a hallway that smells faintly of pine oil and old regrets, where the lights hum soft and green and the air feels thick with stories that need to be told before they let us sleep. This is the story of the Green Mile, the one that still makes grown men cry in the dark and then sleep a little lighter afterward, because some kindnesses are too heavy to carry while awake. You already know the shape of it, maybe, but tonight I'm going to hold your hand and walk you through every single step, every single breath, every tear that ever fell on that cold linoleum floor. We're going to feel the chill of the metal cuffs, the warmth of a giant's palm, the way hope smells when it's born inside a death row cell. And because this is bedtime, nothing here will startle you. Even the saddest parts will be wrapped in the softest blanket of rain and whispered so slowly that your heart will have time to open instead of break. I promise. Let the sound of the rain become the sound of distant thunder over Louisiana in 1935. Let the darkness behind your eyelids become the flickering green glow of those old prison bulbs. Feel your breathing slow in and out, matching the rhythm of a man walking very slowly down a mile that should have been only a few dozen feet, but somehow stretches across an entire lifetime. Trivia slips in like a secret. Did you know that Stephen King sold the film rights to his dear friend Frank Darabont for just $1 single? $1, because King trusted that only Darabont could turn this story into something that would make the whole world feel a little more tender. And Michael Clark Duncan, the gentle giant who became John Coffey, he was so nervous on his first day that Tom Hanks bought him a huge box of donuts just to say welcome to the family. Little kindnesses, you see, they echo. Have you ever felt, darling listener, that some stories choose you instead of the other way around? That they wait until you're tired enough, soft enough to let them in all the way? Tonight this one chose you. It wants to tuck you in. It wants to remind you that even in the darkest places, even on a mile that ends in death, there can still be light so pure it hurts to look at directly. So just breathe with me. Slow, slower, let your shoulders melt. Let your thoughts drift like smoke from a cigarette someone forgot to put out years ago. Imagine the weight of an old man's coat on your own shoulders. Heavy wool smelling faintly of mothballs and nursing home soap. That's how the story begins, with Paul Edgecombe as an old man in a retirement home, watching an old black and white film and starting to cry without quite knowing why at first. We'll meet him there soon, but not yet. First we have to go back to when he was younger and stronger and still believed he understood the difference between justice and mercy. Feel the rain soften even more now, like someone turned the volume down on the world. Let it wash away the day. Let it carry us gently, so gently, toward that long green hallway where miracles wear shackles and monsters sometimes wear badges. You're safe here with me. Nothing can reach you except kindness tonight. When you're ready, when your breathing is as slow as a sleeping river, we'll take the first step together. Just rest now. Rest and listen. The Green Mile is waiting, but it's patient. It knows some journeys can only begin when the listener is already half dreaming. The year is 1935, and the rain we've been listening to has followed us all the way to Cold Mountain Penitentiary in Louisiana, where it drums on the tin roof of E Block like 1,000 patient fingers. Feel it now, soft and steady, while the green linoleum under our bare feet is cool and slightly sticky from the morning mop. The lights are low, the color of old sea glass, and they buzz just enough to remind you you're still awake, but only barely. I'm walking beside you, my voice no louder than the rain itself, and we're going to meet the men who live here, the ones waiting for the mile that ends in Old Sparky. Paul Edgecombe is 44, tall, broad-shouldered, hair already touched with gray at the temples. He moves slowly because he has a urinary infection that burns like fire every time he needs to go. But he never complains. He just grits his teeth and keeps his face calm for the sake of the others. Tonight he's wearing the dark blue uniform that smells faintly of starch and cigarette smoke. And there's a tiny gold cross pinned inside his pocket that his wife Janice gave him the day he took this job. He believes in order. He believes in doing things decently. He does not yet believe in miracles. Brutus Howell, everyone calls him brutal even though he's the gentlest giant you'll ever meet, is leaning against the duty desk polishing his boots with a soft rag. You can almost smell the kiwi polish, dark and sweet. He looks up and grins when Paul walks in, the kind of grin that says, "We're all in this together, brother." Next to him is Dean Stanton, younger, glasses always sliding down his nose, and Harry Terwilliger, who hums old hymns under his breath when he's nervous. They are good men. Tired men. Men who have seen too much but still try to keep a small corner of humanity alive inside these walls. The first prisoner we meet is Edouard Delacroix, a small Cajun with a thin mustache and frightened mouse eyes. Del is on the mile for rape and murder, terrible things, but here he is almost childlike, terrified of the dark, terrified of Percy Wetmore. Percy is the nephew of the governor's wife, a thin-lipped man with slicked-back hair, and a billy club he loves to swing just to hear it whistle. He enjoys fear. He enjoys pain. When he walks the mile, his boots make sharp, angry clicks that make everyone's shoulders tighten. You can feel it now, can't you? The way the air changes when Percy is near, like milk left too long in the sun. And then, one stormy afternoon, the new man arrives. The guards bring him in chained at the wrists, ankles, and waist. So many chains he can barely shuffle. He is enormous, 6'8" at least. Shoulders wide as a doorway, skin the color of midnight after rain. His head is shaved and shining under the green lights, and his eyes, oh his eyes, are soft and ancient and wet, like he's already cried for every sadness the world will ever know. John Coffey, they say his name is, arrested for the murder of two little girls, 9-year-old twins, named Kath and Cora Detterick, found holding their broken bodies, blood all over him, crying, "I tried to take it back, but it was too late." The newspapers called him a monster. The jury took 2 hours. But when they bring him into the block, something strange happens. The air feels heavier, yet cleaner, like right before lightning. Even Percy steps back half a pace without realizing it. John Coffey looks around the block with those sorrowful eyes and says, very softly, "I'm tired, boss. Tired of being on the road, lonely as a sparrow in the rain." His voice is deep, slow, the sound of river stones rolling over one another. Paul asks the usual questions, height, weight, last request, And John just keeps saying he's tired. Tired of the pain in people's heads. Tired of seeing hurt and not being able to fix it all. They put him in the cell across from Delacroix, the one with the padded walls because the last occupant went mad. John sits on the cot, chains clinking softly, and stares at the floor like he's listening to something far away. The rain outside keeps falling, and for the first time in weeks, Paul's infection eases just a little, though he doesn't notice yet. Trivia: whispered like a lullaby. The real Cold Mountain Penitentiary was partly filmed inside an actual abandoned Tennessee state prison, and the crew said the Green Mile set felt haunted long after shooting ended. Michael Clark Duncan was so big he had to duck under door frames. But he cried real tears every single time they rehearsed John's entrance, because he said he could feel the weight of every wrong accusation ever made against black men in the South. Have you ever met someone, sweet friend, who seemed to carry the sadness of the whole world in their eyes? Someone who made you want to apologize for things you never even did? Just rest with that feeling for a moment. Let it settle like warm honey in your chest. A few nights later, Delacroix finds a mouse. A tiny brown mouse with clever black eyes that scurries along the mile looking for crumbs. Del calls him Mr. Jingles and tries to catch him with a cotton reel painted like a circus spool. The mouse becomes the only bright thing in the block, the only creature that isn't afraid. Percy hates him immediately. He wants to step on him just to watch Del cry, but Mr. Jingles is quick, and the men start to smile again, small, secret smiles they hide from Percy. Paul watches all of this from the duty desk, sipping cold coffee that tastes like metal, and writing reports with a fountain pen that scratches softly across the paper. His wife Janice sends him letters perfumed faintly with lavender, and he keeps them in his breast pocket right over his heart. Sometimes he takes one out and just breathes it in, remembering the smell of home, the sound of her laugh, the way she calls him honey, like it's the sweetest secret in the world. Question for you, whispered so only you can hear. Have you ever had a tiny creature, a pet, a bird at the window, a stray cat that made the worst days feel survivable? Let that memory come now, soft and warm, and rest inside it like a blanket fort. The rain keeps falling. The green lights keep humming. And somewhere inside John Coffey's enormous chest, a heart is beating slow and steady, waiting for the moment when the world will ask it to do the impossible. Sleep is coming closer now. Just let your eyelids grow heavier with every drop of rain. We're only at the beginning, darling, and there is still so much kindness waiting up ahead. So much light inside the dark. The days on the mile settle into their quiet rhythm, the way deep water finds its own slow current. The rain has softened tonight into a warm mist that clings to the windows like breath, and every green bulb seems wrapped in gauze. Let it wrap you too. Let the mist settle on your skin, cool and gentle, while my voice stays right here, low and steady, barely louder than the tiny ticking of the wall clock in the guards. Duty room. Tick, 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 counting heartbeats instead of minutes. Paul's infection is worse now. Every trip to the latrine is white-hot agony, like passing ground glass. He hides it behind the same calm mask, but Brutus sees. Brutal always sees. One night he slides a small brown bottle across the desk. Aspirin dissolved in Coca-Cola, an old prison remedy. Paul drinks it without a word, and the two men share a look that says more than thank you ever could. That is friendship here, silent, practical, unbreakable. Delacroix has fully adopted Mr. Jingles. The little mouse lives in an old cigar box lined with cotton fluff and eats peppermint candies Dell saves from his supper tray. Every evening, Dell puts the painted spool on the floor and whispers, "Roll it, Mr. Jingles, roll it for Mama," and the mouse pushes it in perfect circles while Dell laughs like a child on Christmas morning. The sound is so pure it hurts. Even Harry, who lost a son years ago, finds himself smiling behind his hand. John Coffey watches from his cell with the softest smile you've ever seen, the kind that makes the green light seem warmer. He never asks to touch the mouse, but sometimes he reaches one huge finger through the bars and Mr. Jingles runs right up to it, sniffs, and sits perfectly still while John strokes the tiny head with the edge of one fingernail. No one speaks when this happens. They hardly breathe. Trivia. Slipped in like a secret under the pillow. The spool Mr. Jingles pushes was handmade by the prop department from a real 1930s thread spool. They painted it red and green by hand, and between takes the mouse trainer, there were actually 6 trained mice, would reward them with tiny drops of condensed milk. Michael Clark Duncan adored them so much he kept one of the spares in his pocket the entire shoot, just to feel something small and alive. Percy Wetmore is becoming worse. He stomps the mile every night just to feel powerful, slamming his billy club against the bars to watch the men flinch. One evening he catches Mr. Jingles alone in the corridor and raises his boot, slowly, deliberately, grinning like a cat with a bird. Dell screams from his cell, a raw animal sound. Percy pauses, savoring it. Then Brutus appears out of nowhere, grabs Percy's arm so hard the billy club clatters away, and says very quietly, "You ever do that again, and I will break you into pieces small enough to flush." Percy's face goes white. For once he says nothing. The mouse escapes under the restraint room door. Dell cries himself to sleep that night, clutching the empty cigar box. Question for you, darling. Has anyone ever protected something you loved when you were powerless to do it yourself? Feel that gratitude now, warm in your chest like a tiny candle. Let it glow while you breathe in and out. A new prisoner is scheduled to arrive soon. William Wharton, wild-eyed and vicious, calls himself Billy the Kid. But before he comes, something happens that changes everything. It is late, almost lights out. Paul is alone in the block doing paperwork when the pain in his groin flares so badly he has to grip the desk. Sweat beads on his forehead. He stands to go to the latrine, takes 2 steps, and doubles over. John Coffey's voice drifts from the padded cell, gentle as falling ash. "Boss, you hurtin' bad. I can help." Paul, half laughing through the pain, tells him to go to sleep. John just repeats, "Please, boss, just come close." Something in the giant's voice makes Paul walk to the bars. John reaches both huge hands through, wrists raw from the cuffs he never complains about, and says, "Just let me touch you a minute." Paul hesitates. Then, exhausted, he steps forward. John's hands close gently around Paul's hips, thumbs resting right over the infected area. There is a moment of perfect stillness. Then, Paul feels heat, not burning, but golden, spreading through his pelvis like warm honey. The pain vanishes so completely he almost falls. John's face twists in agony for 3 long seconds, mouth open, eyes rolled back, and then he leans forward and coughs out a cloud of tiny black insects that swirl like smoke before dissolving into nothing. He releases Paul and sinks back onto his cot, breathing hard. Paul stands there stunned, feeling better than he has in years. He whispers, "What was that?" John only says, very softly, "I took it back, boss. I helped it hurt me instead of you." Paul staggers to the latrine, just to be sure. He urinates clear and painless for the first time in months. When he returns, he stares at John Coffey sleeping like a child, one massive arm dangling off the cot, and he understands for the first time that the world is bigger and stranger and kinder than any rule book ever written. Reflection, whispered against your hair. Have you ever been healed by someone who had every reason to hate the world? Someone who chose kindness anyway? Let that thought rest on your heart like the gentlest weight. Let it rock you. The rain has almost stopped now. Only a few drops still slide down the window pane like slow tears. Somewhere in the distance thunder rolls, soft as a lullaby. We're halfway down the mile, sweet friend, and the hardest parts are still ahead, but the light is growing too. Just breathe with me. Slow. Slower. Let your body sink deeper into the mattress while the story carries you. The mist outside has turned into the softest silver fog, the kind that makes the prison yard look like a dream you're not sure you want to wake from. Inside E Block, the green lights feel warmer now, almost protective, as though they know what's coming and have decided to cradle us anyway. Let the fog press gently against the windows, while you let your limbs grow heavier, like warm sand poured slowly into a glass. My voice is only a breath now, brushing the tiny hairs on your ear, telling you it's safe to fall a little deeper. William Billy the Kid Wharton arrives on a day when the air itself feels dangerous. He comes in laughing, spitting, biting at the restraints, eyes rolling white like a horse about to bolt. He is 19, blonde hair matted with blood from fighting the deputies, and he smells of moonshine and pure hatred. When they drag him past John Coffey's cell, he lunges at the bars and screams, "I'll chew your nuts off, you big black freak!" John doesn't even blink. He just looks at Wharton with those ancient, sorrowful eyes and says, very quietly, "You the bad one, ain't you?" Wharton laughs harder, but something in his laugh cracks, just a little. They put Wharton in the cell next to Delacroix, and from that moment, the block is never quiet. Wharton sings filthy songs at the top of his lungs, masturbates loudly, smears feces on the wall, and threatens to rape everyone's mothers. Percy Wetmore loves him immediately. They are two sides of the same rotten coin. Percy starts giving Wharton extra dessert just to watch the others go hungry. Trivia. Tucked in like a pressed flower. The actor who played Wharton, Sam Rockwell, stayed in character so deeply between takes that the real prison guards on set refused to be alone with him. He said later that playing pure evil made him need hugs from Michael Clark Duncan every single night when they rapped. Paul's wife Janice notices the change in him. He comes home lighter, almost boyish, the infection completely gone. She touches his face in the lamplight and asks what happened. He only says, "Something wonderful, Jan. Something I can't explain yet." They make love that night for the first time in months without pain, and afterward she falls asleep with her head on his chest, while he stares at the ceiling, listening to distant thunder that sounds exactly like John Coffey's heartbeat. Back on the block, Delacroix is teaching Mr. Jingles new tricks every day. The mouse can now fetch the spool, roll it down the mile, and bring it back like a tiny dog. The men gather quietly to watch, their faces soft in the green light. Even Dean, who swore he hated rats, slips the mouse bits of cheese from his sandwich. John Coffey watches everything with a sane, gentle smile, and sometimes he hums a low note that makes Mr. Jingles sit perfectly still, ears twitching, as though listening to music only they can hear. Then comes the night of the rehearsal for Edouard Delacroix's execution. They do it the way they always do. Strap Del into old Sparky with a wet sponge on his head, run through the words, check the clamps, make sure everything is decent and orderly. Percy Wetmore volunteers to be the one in charge this time. Paul doesn't like it, but the warden has already approved it because of Percy's connections. Percy spends the whole rehearsal smirking, polishing the brass contacts on the chair until they shine like cruel smiles. Question, whispered against your temple. Have you ever known, deep in your stomach, that something terrible was coming and been powerless to stop it? Let that feeling come now, but let it be wrapped in cotton. Let it pass through you like a ghost that means no harm. The actual execution night is humid and still. The witnesses sit in rows behind the glass, fanning themselves with programs. Delacroix is trembling so hard his teeth chatter. He keeps looking for Mr. Jingles in the audience, hoping the mouse is safe in Brutus's pocket. Percy is in charge of the sponge. The sponge that must be soaked in brine so the electricity flows clean and quick. Percy forgets to wet it. Or pretends to forget. No one notices until it's too late. They strap Del in. He cries for his mama. He cries for Mr. Jingles. Paul gives the nod. Percy pulls the switch. The current hits Del like a hammer. But because the sponge is dry, instead of a quick shudder and stillness, Delacroix begins to cook. His skin blisters and splits. His eyeballs boil. Flames leap from the crown of his head. The smell, sweet, sickening pork and burning hair, fills the room. The witnesses scream. Some vomit. Del keeps screaming long after a human voice should be possible. A high, animal keen that goes on while his body dances in the straps. Paul lunges for the phone to stop it, but there is no stopping it. Percy stands frozen, mouth open, finally understanding what he has done. It takes almost 7 minutes for Del to die. 7 minutes of hell. That should have been 30 seconds of mercy. When it's over, Paul walks out into the yard and throws up until there is nothing left but bile and tears. Brutus holds him while he shakes. Harry weeps openly. Even Dean, the toughest of them, has to sit down on the ground and put his head between his knees. Later, in the quiet aftermath, John Coffey reaches through the bars and touches Paul's hand. "I felt it all, boss," he whispers. "I felt him burn. I'm sorry I couldn't take that one back." Paul looks at the giant and realizes John has been absorbing everyone's pain the whole time, carrying it inside that huge body like a silent ocean. Reflection, soft as moth wings. Have you ever carried someone else's suffering because you loved them, even when it hurt you? Feel that love now. Let it be a warm weight instead of a sharp one. Let it rock you gently. The fog outside thickens until the prison disappears. Only the green glow remains, and the sound of distant waves that weren't there before. You're drifting now, sweet friend, drifting deeper. The worst is past. The light is coming. The fog has lifted just enough for a pale moon to hang over the yard like a silver coin someone dropped and forgot to pick up. Inside E-Block, the lights seem dimmer tonight, as if they too are tired of watching men die. Let the moonlight fall across your closed eyelids now, cool and weightless, while the last of the thunder rolls away to the west. My voice is barely a thread, a single strand of silk tying your thoughts to the story so they won't wander too far while you sink. Paul Edgecombe, Hasn't slept properly since Delacroix burned. He walks the mile at night, touching the bars where John Coffey's huge hands rest, trying to understand what he is being asked to do with the knowledge that now lives inside him like a second heartbeat. Brutus finds him there one dawn and simply says, "We have to try." 2 words, quiet as communion. They both know what it means. Warden Hal Moore's wife Melinda is dying. Brain cancer. She screams day and night, clawing at the walls, calling Hal filthy names she never used in 40 years of marriage. The doctors have given up. Hal himself is shrinking inside his uniform, eyes red-rimmed, voice cracked. One evening he comes to the block and asks Paul, almost pleading, if there is any way John Coffey could be taken to his house off prison grounds, just for a few minutes. Hal has heard rumors. He is desperate enough to believe them. Paul looks at the warden and sees a man drowning in front of him. He says yes. They plan it like a prison break in reverse. On a night when the rain returns soft and forgiving, they drug William Wharton with a spiked Mickey, a bottle of RC Cola laced with enough morphine to drop a horse. Wharton drinks it down laughing, calling them all saps, then collapses snoring like a broken engine. They cuff John Coffey lightly, no ankle chains this time, and wrap him in a blanket so he looks like just another guard transferring a prisoner. Percy Wetmore is told nothing. He is sent on a fake errand to the state capitol. 5 men, Paul, Brutus, Harry, Dean, and John, walk out into the rain and climb into an old truck that smells of wet canvas and gasoline. The drive to the warden's house is silent except for the windshield wipers going shush, 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 like a mother calming a frightened child. John sits in the back between Brutus and Harry, staring out at the passing pines with tears rolling down his cheeks. He is crying for Melinda Moores before he has even seen her. Inside the house, Melinda is a skeleton wrapped in rage. She thrashes on the bed, hair wild, eyes blind with pain and tumor. When she sees John, she screams, "Don't you touch me, you brute, you black devil!" Hal tries to hold her down. Paul's heart is hammering so hard he can taste metal. John Coffey walks forward slowly, chains clinking like soft bells. He kneels beside the bed, enormous hands, gentle as doves, and says in the softest voice you have ever heard, "Ma'am, I come to help you be quiet. I come to take the hurt away." Melinda spits at him. John only leans closer until his face is inches from hers. Then he opens his mouth, wide, impossibly wide, and inhales. A sound comes out of Melinda that is not human. Blackness pours from her mouth like smoke, like insects, like every evil thing the tumor ever fed on. It streams into John's throat. His back arches. Veins stand out on his neck. His eyes roll white. Melinda convulses once, twice, then collapses. The room is utterly still. When John straightens, Melinda's eyes are clear for the first time in months. She looks up at the giant holding her hand and whispers, "I dreamed of you. You were walking in the sun with my husband and we were all young again." She falls into a peaceful sleep, breathing slow and steady. Hal Moores drops to his knees and cries like a baby. On the ride back, John is quiet. The pain he took from Melinda is sitting inside him now, a black storm behind his eyes. Paul asks if he is all right. John only says, "I'm tired, boss. Tired of all the hurt I hear in the world." Trivia, whispered like warm milk. Michael Clark Duncan was actually crying real tears during this scene because the little girl who played the young Melinda in the vision reminded him of his own niece. They had to stop filming 3 times so he could compose himself. Back at the prison, everything goes wrong in the space of a heartbeat. Percy has returned early. He is waiting in the mile with his pistol drawn and a smirk that says he finally has them all. He orders them to unlock Wharton's cell so he can show the end lover what happens to guards who break rules. Paul tries to talk him down, but Percy is drunk on power. He steps into Wharton's cell to gloat. Wharton is not asleep. The morphine has worn off just enough. He explodes out of the bunk, grabs Percy around the throat with both cuffed hands, and uses him like a shield. In the struggle, Percy's gun fires once, twice. Bullets ricochet off the bars. Brutus tackles Wharton. In the chaos, John Coffey reaches through his own cell bars, grabs Percy by the shoulders, and pulls him close. John kisses Percy on the mouth. Not a lover's kiss. A transfer. The blackness John has been carrying, Delacroix's burning, Melinda's tumor, every pain he has ever swallowed, pours out of him and into Percy Wetmore. Percy's eyes bulge. His mouth opens in a silent scream. The same cloud of black insects erupts from John's mouth into Percy's, choking him, filling him. Percy staggers back. The revolver falls, and he empties every round into Wharton's chest. Wharton dies instantly, smiling like he finally won something. Percy collapses against the bars, drooling, eyes empty. He will spend the rest of his life in a padded room at Briar Ridge, never speaking again, only staring at nothing and occasionally whispering, "Dead man walking." John releases the bars and sinks to his knees, crying quietly. "He killed them girls, boss," he says. "I seen it when I touched him. He raped them and killed them and laughed. I had to take it back." Paul understands everything then. The Dedrick twins. The blood on John's shirt. The way he was holding their broken bodies and sobbing. "I couldn't help it. I tried to take it back." John found them already dead. Tried to resurrect them the way he did Melinda, the way he did the mouse. But it was too late. The evil had already won that time. Reflection, soft as candle wax. Have you ever been blamed for something you only tried to heal? Let that ache come and let it go. Breathe it out into the moonlight. The mile is quieter now than it has ever been. Only John Coffey remains to walk it. The rain has come back, but it is different now. No longer the hard, guilty rain of Louisiana summer nights. Only a tender, almost soundless shower that feels like the sky itself is washing everything clean. The green lights in E-Block have dimmed to the color of sea glass held up to moonlight. And old Sparky sits silent in its little room, waiting for the last time. Let that quiet rain fall on your face now, cool and forgiving, while every muscle you still remember you have loosens and drifts away. My voice is only the softest hush against the shell of your ear, the way a mother breathes when her child has finally stopped crying. They set the date, November 20th, 1935. John Coffey will walk the mile one last time. Paul tries everything. He writes letters, makes phone calls, begs the governor on his knees. Nothing works. John himself refuses every appeal. When Paul visits him the night before and pleads, "We can get you out, John, we can still try," the giant only smiles that sorrowful, ancient smile and says, "I'm tired, boss. Tired of walking this world alone. I want to go home now." He asks for no special last meal, only a little cornbread and a glass of well water. He asks if Mr. Jingles can be there, just to see him off. Paul promises. The witnesses gather. The chaplain is pale. The Dederick parents sit in the front row, faces carved from stone and grief. Brutus, Harry, and Dean stand at their posts with tears already shining on their cheeks. Paul's hands shake so badly he can barely fasten his tie. Janice is waiting outside in the car. She kissed him goodbye an hour ago and whispered, "Bring yourself back to me, Paul Edgecombe, whatever it costs." They bring John out barefoot, the shackles removed for the first time since he arrived. He wears a clean white shirt that strains across his shoulders, and the Green Mile seems to stretch forever under his slow, deliberate steps. Mr. Jingle sits on Brutus's shoulder, tiny paws clutching the fabric, eyes bright with something no one can name. John stops in front of the Dederick family. He looks at them with infinite gentleness and says, "I'm sorry for what happened to your little girls. I loved them the minute I saw them lying in the grass like broken dolls. I only wanted to fix them, but I was too late." The mother begins to sob, a sound that tears the room in half. The father simply closes his eyes and nods once, as though a lifetime of rage has finally found somewhere safe to land. They seat John in the chair. The straps are soft leather, worn smooth by too many bodies. Brutus places the black hood, but John quietly asks if it can stay off. He wants to see the sky one last time. Paul nods. The metal cap is lowered onto his shaved head, the wet sponge dripping cold salt water down his neck. John looks straight at Paul and smiles. Small and peaceful, the smile of a child who has been lost and is finally found. Paul's voice cracks as he asks the ritual question. "Any last words, John?" John looks around the room, taking in every face, and says very softly, "Please, boss, don't put that thing on my head. I'm scared of the dark." Paul's tears fall onto the switch handle. He gives the nod. The current hits. John's body arches once, gently, almost politely. There is no screaming, no smell of burning flesh, only the faintest smell of summer grass and distant rain. His eyes stay open, looking up through the little window at the ceiling, and for one impossible second, the witnesses swear they see sunlight pour into the room, warm and golden, as though heaven itself has opened a door. Then he is still. They wheel him out on the gurney. Mr. Jingles hops down from Brutus's shoulder and curls up on John's chest, refusing to leave. Brutus lets him stay. Years later, decades later, old Paul Edgecombe sits in a Georgia nursing home, telling this story to his friend Elaine, tears rolling down the valleys of his ancient face. He is 104 years old, still strong enough to walk to the garden every day, still punished by the gift John left inside him that night, long life. Mr. Jingles lives in a shoebox under his bed, gray-muzzled but bright-eyed, still rolling his little spool when Paul asks. They are the last ones who remember the miracles. Trivia. The very last one, whispered like the final note of a lullaby. The mouse who played Mr. Jingles in the final scenes was 26 months old, ancient for a mouse, and died peacefully on set the day after filming ended. The crew buried him under the fake Green Mile with a tiny headstone that simply read, "Here lies a good boy." Question. Soft as the blanket I'm tucking around you now. Have you ever loved someone so much that living longer than them felt like the cruelest kindness? Let that love settle in your chest tonight. Let it keep watch while you sleep. And the very last reflection, breathed against your forehead like a goodnight kiss. John Coffey wasn't the only one who carried light into the dark. You do it too. Every time you choose gentleness when the world gives you 1,000 reasons not to. That light never dies. It only passes from hand to hand, heart to heart, until someone very far away feels warmer and falls asleep smiling without knowing why. The rain has stopped completely now. The moon is gone. There is only quiet, deep and wide and kind. Paul Edgecombe is finally asleep in his chair by the window. Mr. Jingles, curled on his lap like a comma at the end of a very long sentence. And somewhere, John Coffey is walking barefoot through fields of tall grass under a sun that never sets, no longer tired, no longer alone. You can let go now, sweet friend. Let every last bit of weight slide off your shoulders and sink into the mattress. The Green Mile is finished. The story has done its work. All that's left is peace, wide and warm and waiting for you. Good night. Sleep long. Sleep gentle. You are loved more than you will ever know.